Today on Sagittarian Matters, Alison Bechdel returns to talk about drawing goats, making a living as a lesbian, and her new book, Spent. Stay tuned.
Sagittarian Matters, Sagittarian Matters, what's the matter with you? Sagittarian Matters.
Alison Bechdel is a Virgo friend to the show and the author of the comic strip Dykes to Watch Out For. She's also the author of the graphic memoirs Fun Home, Are You My Mother, and The Secret to Superhuman Strength. Alison joined me in the Sagittarian Matters social distancing studios to talk about her newest book, Spent, a comic novel. Now please enjoy my talk with friend to the show, Alison Bechdel. Alison Bechdel, welcome back to Sagittarian Matters.
Thank you, Nicole. I was just remembering. Do you remember our last conversation when it happened?
Well, yeah, the last time you were officially on the podcast was the day after the 2016 election.
Yeah.
And so I thought we did post an interview, our NIB interview kind of between then, around 2018. But I thought of you when this election happened. The day after election in 2016, you said it felt like you were at a funeral for the world.
Mm,
How does it feel now?
infinitely worse. It's crazy what's happening.
Yeah.
How are you handling it? You look so radiant. I know that people listening can't see you, but you seem to be managing it all right.
I am. Wait, I need
fires and everything.
I need to show you. This is my view out my window
Wow.
here at my home studio.
That's lovely.
It's really nice. How am I handling it? Well, I've just in the past year learned the word titrate, like taking a little break from things and coming back. And so I've been having to do that where I kind of dip my head into the doom spiral and then I take it back out. And I have to do meditation and focusing on what I actually can do right now while kind of ambiently making escape plans on the side.
Yeah,
you
I've got
know-
to get to work on my escape plan. But yeah, I guess, for a while I was feeling a little impatient when people would talk about, oh, I'm just not going to read the news or whatever. Like, I know that that's necessary, but now I know even more that it's necessary, and I'm really just deleting emails willy-nilly. Can't read this now, can't do this now. Sorry, can't do it. You got to focus.
Yeah. And you have to be able, I think we're in this moment. In 2016, I taught for my friend Beth Pickens this workshop she had written called Making Art During Fascism, which was basically like, what do you have to offer? What don't you have to offer? To like let people off the hook for feeling guilty for not being at every march or something, but letting them focus on like, okay, you do have money or time or, but, and then it was also about taking care of yourself so you could keep showing up.
Right.
But in the intervening years, I feel like there's kind of been a trend towards people taking care of themselves so much that they do nothing, like kind of letting their like self-care intersect with their sense of doom. And so now I just taught this workshop again, but I amended it. It's making comics during fascism. And it basically was like, okay, what were you willing to do in 2016? What if you stretched yourself a little bit more because things are really different now? What would that look like?
Great. That's great. I love that.
Thanks.
Yeah, you got to do it, all of it. You have to take care of yourself, and you have to stepping up a lot more in the world. And
oh yeah, go ahead.
I mean, there's just not enough time for everything.
Listeners, Alison just did a glasses change. You always have such great glasses.
Thank you. I like these. Let me do a self-hide.
Okay.
I'm just going to drag this window over my face. Oh my God, that's so much better. It's so stressful watching myself talk.
I know. I weirdly like watching myself talk, and maybe that's like a mental illness or something. Okay, Alison, we're actually here to talk about your new book.
Spent.
which is beautiful and full color.
Thank you.
It's gorgeous.
I haven't actually seen the finished book yet. It's at home. It just arrived yesterday, and I'm so excited to go home and see the color, because the advanced reading copy, as you can see, is all black and white.
They sent me like a little comic book to go with it that has a color sample so I could see how it was going to look. And it looks really, really good.
I'm glad you think so.
Okay, we have to get into this because I could talk to you for about 3 hours. But the first thing I want to ask you, how does it feel to be a cartoon character? And I've asked you this question before as it applied to memoir, but this book is autofiction. Or we could just say fiction. And there's a character named Alison. Not Mo, Alison.
I know. I mean, it feels fine. I feel like I have become rather a cartoon character. And so in a way, it's not, it's really an accurate reflection of myself. Even though I take all kinds of liberties, it's basically me.
Where do you and Alison, the character, where do your paths fork or go away from each other?
She's a slightly exaggerated version of myself, or maybe not. I have no way of really judging that. But she, I mean, the only way she really veers away from me is in all the stuff I make up. Like, she runs a pygmy goat sanctuary. She has a sister who is a member of Moms for Liberty. Like, those things aren't really true about me, but everything else is, Alison's whole temperament and her, doom spirals, all of that is pretty much me.
I guess I was wondering, I think over time, because I'm also a cartoon character, over time I was thinking, like, what are the things that people know about me or my character? And then what are the things in my life that I keep super private, or parts of me that are just not, it's all always true, but like what parts of me are or aren't the character. And I guess I was wondering, as you're writing fiction, was there anything that you felt more accessible to you emotionally or about your character writing her as fiction, or no, because her name was Alison?
Well, I don't know if I'm not really answering that question. But I'll answer something.
Sure.
which is that, in a way, I've worked so hard as a memoirist over the past however many years, like, to really unearth the truth about myself and my life and be scathingly honest about myself. And I was prepared. This book was originally going to be another memoir in that vein. This one was going to be about money, like my financial history and my relationship to class and privilege and living under capitalism. But when I sat down to really begin work on it in earnest, I felt really bored. Like, oh God, I'm going to have to read Marx. I'm going to have to read all this stuff I'm not that interested in. And then in that same space came this idea of writing about, not a memoir about money, but a book about a cartoonist named Alison Bechdel trying to write a book about money. And that became just immensely more interesting to me. And the whole thing almost came to me in a piece, like, that never happens to me. I always very enviously hear these stories of artists who have these flows of inspiration, and I never get them, but this time I did. And it was just really fun from there on out to make up this story about this person who is me and isn't me.
When we talked in 2018 for the Nib, we were talking about a lot of things, but one of the things you said was that you like couldn't believe that people thought the characters from Dykes to Watch Out For were, they thought that they were all your actual friends.
Right.
And when you were drawing it, you said they felt like your actual friends, but in real life, they didn't completely exist, you know, as those people. And so, but now your character and Holly have both entered the Dykes to Watch Out For universe, or they've entered yours on the page.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of went full circle. And I brought those characters back and made them my friends in a very more explicit way than they were before.
How did it feel to spend time with them like that?
It felt amazing. I always felt bad after I stopped doing the strip. People would ask me, "Oh, do you miss your characters? I wonder what they're doing now." And I would be like, "I don't know. I don't care. I'm done. I'm out." Because I really was burned out after 25 years of writing about them. But they were just like really welcome, very welcome old friends and comrades, in these terrible, dark times that we've been going through. It really felt cheering, like, oh, here's these people who've been fighting the good fight all along, and like so many real people have been, and it just felt great to be with them.
There was something about reading it, I realized that I like speed read this, of course. Like I was so excited to read it when I got it. I read it immediately over the course of 2 days. And it could have been like 700 pages and I would have been flipping through it. But there was something really comforting and real feeling about hanging out with this group of people that have been activists or community members in this grassroots way for their whole lives, and to be reminded that those people do exist.
Yeah. And I had to go to some contortions to explain why they're all still living in a group household together.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I love that they're doing that, in a weird way, my real life kind of mirrored that, because in the apartment where I live in New Haven, where I'm teaching, it's a semi-communal thing. Like I share the kitchen with this little family, and it's really cool. I never would have thought I would like that at my advanced age, like, sharing a living space, but it is awesome. There's 2 little kids, there's a cat, there's people coming and going. And I haven't had that in my life for so long. I've just been in my little nuclear, what do you call it, dyad. And it's a really different feeling to live with other people.
Yeah. But then it seems nice too, because you can go close the door of your room when you're like, all right, that's enough. Goodbye.
Yeah. When the noise level gets too high, I can just shut the door.
I want to know, so about this book, you said it all kind of came to you pretty quickly. And this is a little bit of a nuts and bolts cartooning question before we go back into the content. But I really want to know your process, or how you plan or map out a long form story.
Yeah, that's a good question, because it was kind of different for this book than it was for my various memoirs. It was very much like going back to writing the comic strip, although of course this is like 250 pages. It's a very, very long extended comic strip. But what I mean is, in writing memoirs, I never knew what was going to happen. Like the whole point of writing those was to figure something out. It was like a process of discovery. And I never knew if I was going to get anywhere. It was very, mysterious work. And I never felt like I was in control of it. But with this book, it's just a story. It's like just putting building blocks together and, working with them until they fit. And that was kind of satisfying and fun.
Do you write it on the computer or a piece of paper, or what?
I write it on the computer. I mean, technically, I write it the same way I've written everything, the memoirs, and even my comic strip at the end. I was writing in Illustrator. So I'm typing, but I'm typing in a word balloon or a little box of narration, and I'm creating panels on the page. So I'm not actually drawing with a pencil, but for me, it is a kind of drawing. Like I'm envisioning what that page is going to look like when it is drawn, and I have a rough idea of what each panel will contain. So that's how I do it, and that gives me this kind of flexibility. You know, if I want to move stuff around, I can do it easily. I don't have like drawn pages that need to get
Yeah.
rearranged or
Is it,
deleted.
is there anywhere else where you kind of have a list or a map of like the greater picture of like how things are going or what's happening in it?
Yes. Yes, I also keep like an Illustrator overview of each page spread of each chapter with just little like shorthand for what goes on each page.
Mm-hmm.
That gives me a kind of zoomed out bird's eye view of the story.
When did you know you were done?
Well, with this book, I pretty much knew I was done when I filled the last box. Like I knew it was going to be 12 chapters, and each one was going to be about, I don't know, 16 pages long. And so I just had these discrete spaces that needed to be filled. So it was just doing that work.
Yeah. When you're doing a memoir and you said you kind of don't know what's going to happen, do you start with knowing sort of like I kind of know the beginning and end, and I'm not sure what will be unveiled as I go? Or like, how has that process been for you?
Oh God, when you ask me this, I realize I feel like I have never really known what the hell I'm doing.
You're just vibing?
I'm just vibing, Nicole.
Not a sentence I ever thought you would say to me.
I mean, this process really worked well for me in Fun Home. This process of just knowing certain elements that were important to the story and then bringing other stuff in. Like in Fun Home, I brought in all these literary figures and works that related to my father, and just kind of messing around with them, I found the structure of that book. And I let myself do that with my two later memoirs, with Are You My Mother and The Secret to Superhuman Strength. But I don't feel like I ever really had full control of that process in the same way I did with Fun Home. I kept waiting for some like external force to come in and show me something, like show me this, I don't know, coincidence or connection that would make everything work, rather than really taking the reins myself. And I feel like if I had known more about the whole process, I would have done better at those books. They feel a little lost, a little adrift to me now.
I love those books.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say.
I've been having this feeling, I don't know if this is what you're speaking to, but I've been having this feeling lately of having written these kind of long books that exist in public, and now wishing I could go back through and just give them another pass. like wishing I could just give Fetch another pass and just like tighten it up a little bit, or like, you know, like some of the wording, I'm like, nobody called me on this. Like, just like wanting to massage things a little bit or change, or having evolved ideas about dogs. And so wanting to go back, like my revisionist history, and being like, I got to cut this Caesar Milan part out of here. I gotta add some positive reinforcement here. I was like, I got to make the connections between my childhood and now stronger. Like knowing more now, I want to go back and change everything. And I can't.
No, you can't. They're done. They're cast in stone. They're out there.
Do you have that feeling towards those books?
Well, I feel I've come to terms with it. Like, whatever. Like, they're just products. They were very important to me, but you have to let go of them. I mean, you have to yeah, you have to separate from them, and then they have their own life. It's just, I suppose, it's like having a child.
I mean, I think of it as having a child. You know, you have this thing, you put it out into the world, and then it's out of your control what happens to it
Yeah.
next.
God knows what it's going to do.
Michelle T and I sometimes talk about having put very personal things in memoir out as almost like having to disassociate from it.
Oh,
You,
totally. People ask me that all the time. What's it like having, people know these intimate things about you? And I'm like, I don't think about it. I completely dissociate from it. I don't think about it.
you can't.
But here's the thing. I think in a way, this new book, Spent, is a kind of reaction to that. It's a way of sort of covering my own tracks or casting into doubt all the memoirs I've written, because maybe I was lying. Maybe, like I'm lying right now, I don't really have a pygmy goat. Who knows what's true about me?
Anything could be true. You're a man of mystery.
I am.
Well, let's talk more about this book. I mean, I was really interested in the blending of everyone, but I wonder if you could talk a little bit about I mean, the things that were sticking out to me was, well, I wanted to know where's Mo in this universe? Is Mo just
It's funny because
gone?
I didn't even consciously think about Mo. I definitely brought in the group household, Lois and Sparrow and Ginger. They were always there from the earliest days, living in this house together, these three lesbians. And then eventually Sparrow gets involved with a man, with Stuart, and then they have a baby. So all those characters are here, but there's no Mo. And it took me a while to realize, oh, I'm Mo. I'm Mo, and I'm Sydney. Those were both kind of avatars for me. I started out as Mo, and I morphed over time into Sydney. And so there's no need for them to be in the book because they're me.
Kind of like, what is it called? Like a carnivorous twin or something like it in the womb where there's two and then one
Oh,
of
yeah.
them kind of eats the other one.
Yeah. But who ate who?
I don't know.
Did I eat them both?
Yeah. You absorbed them both.
Yeah, I did.
Well, I'm also interested in your characters, the character of Allison, whoever that's based on, the character of Allison's experience with fame and also experience with money. So, what parts from your original money memoir ended up in this book?
Not too much. I really got off of the money track because there was so many other little stories I was telling. But I was interested, I guess, kind of interested in the way that, I don't know, like I've ended up making a lot of money, like in much more money than I ever expected to make, when I started out writing a lesbian comic strip in 1983. Like that was just crazy. That was not a way to make a living. And I didn't really think about making a living. I wasn't motivated by money, really. I guess I'm interested in people who are motivated by money and people who aren't. And I wasn't, but of course, I also had a great deal of privilege. I grew up in a middle-class family with a lot of, safety net. I went to college and I had to have loans, but they weren't terrible and I paid them off. So I've had a lot of wind at my back, but I was also doing this crazy, eking out a living drawing these countercultural cartoons, and it worked out for me, which just, I don't know, it's just interesting. Like it's an interesting story. And then to find myself having gotten used to being an outsider in that way culturally, to then kind of making it and being not mainstream exactly, but respected, a respected figure, which is so odd. And making good money to boot. and I play with that in the story. You know, Allison has a sister who is an art, like a elementary school art teacher, and doesn't make much money at all, of course. But she's a talented seed artist. Like she makes those little seed, what do you call those things?
A mosaic.
The mosaics, yeah, like putting all seeds together to make pictures and placards and things. So they both have this kind of like on the spectrum kind of skill, but Allison has made hay out of it, and Sheila, her sister, hasn't. I don't know. Like it's funny to me that I kind of broke all the rules. I was the bad, you know, countercultural lesbian person, but it worked out. And it's funny too, in this new bizarre political world that we live in. Like there's a line in the book when Allison is thinking about her own success, and she says, "Wow, no wonder Trump won." Because I don't know, I always like to feel guilty for everything. So there's this part of me that feels like I somehow caused all of this cultural insanity that we live in because I did so well.
What's the logic there? What's the point A to point B? What's
There's zero logic, except that I don't know. I look at I just think it's funny that you can, I don't know. It's like I made money from being a lesbian in this weird way, you know?
Whoever knew that being a lesbian was an honest living?
Right. Anyhow, I was interested in there's some feeling about all of that. Obviously, I haven't gotten to it, but that was part of the impulse in the book.
Well, I thought it was interesting because I remember I knew about your pitch when you were planning, maybe it was for Are You My Mother, when you were planning to just do like a dating history kind of comic, like your life through this like romantic lens.
Right.
And then this was like you were going to do a memoir that was like your life through this money lens.
Right.
And it's so interesting that both of those ended up taking a turn and going a different direction.
That's true. Very good recall. Yeah, I totally threw out that dating version of Are You My Mother and redid it. Yeah, took a completely different course. Don't you think that's probably true of most artists? Like, you don't know what you're going to do. There's no way you can know ahead of time. Otherwise, why bother?
I mean, yes and no. I have ideas banked, and I only have so much time and ability as a human to do them. But then I feel like when they show up, when it's time for them, when there's funding or time or whatever, then maybe a lot of different things have happened between when I had the original idea and now about my perspective or politically or interpersonally. So then it adds to it and it makes it different. But I don't know if I completely changed course on the project. Like, I wonder if those books to me that you were going to write are still kind of ghost books that may or may not ever exist, but they do exist. Like they exist, I think, probably almost fully formed in your head.
Certainly there's a ghost chapter of that early version of Are You My Mother that I would like to somehow publish somewhere just to figure it out again. Yeah, it kind of hovers around me.
What is your advice for cartoonists as they go ergonomically? Because you do have, even though you're kind of, so it's like, don't hold anything for too long. But like, what's your setup, or what has been helpful to your body to do this like hard kind of clenching thing?
Well, I think I told you, I totally went over to the dark side in the middle of this book.
I'm scandalized. Will you tell listeners?
I started drawing digitally. And it's so much easier. I'm not happy with my line. I've got to figure that out. You can really see in the book where the pen line stops and the digital line starts. And I just need to figure out a better digital nib. It's are you going to look?
I'm looking, but because I was going to tell you, I actually, as I was going through this, I was really impressed by the lines you were able to get. I realized that I totally forgot that it was digitally drawn and that I was fully in, and it just felt like one of your books. Like this thing, like when you draw your hair, it looks so normal.
Yeah, it does. That's totally digital.
It looks really good. It looks really delicate.
The brush I did create was kind of fucked up. It was like kind of had this, I wanted to get some of that quality of a nib where it really can only go in one direction, you know? And if you want to pull it around a curve and put pressure on it, you can get a little something different. So I was always kind of fighting with even with the digital nib in the way I often would fight with my physical nib. I guess that's just my nature. I like a little struggle. But I enjoyed it. And I feel like it freed me up too, in a way. I feel like my drawing in terms of composition and stuff got better because I was able to take a lot of risks that I wouldn't have bothered with in the old-fashioned way, where it was just more difficult to do or to redo if it didn't work out. So I feel like I kind of grew drawing wise in this book.
What kind of risks?
Oh, just like drawing, not drawing bigger, but drawing bigger scenes. One of the problems with my comic strip was that I could only use tiny square panels. And it was hard to show anything but people's heads. So in this book, there's a lot of play with scale. There are close-up talking heads, but there's also a lot of vistas where you can see the landscape and people's full bodies. So I did a lot more of that kind of thing.
I appreciated how many animals were in this book.
Oh, Nicole,
Of
I thought of you
course.
so much as I was drawing these animals and wishing I had your skill for characterization of animals. Like, it was fun drawing those goats, but I never quite got their personalities,
I could be your goat consultant. But I was so happy. I actually was referencing back. I was thinking about them because there's a couple goats in a book I'm working on right now. And it's been hard for me to get the body. Like I could get the face right, but the body was hard. And your goat bodies are so spot on that I was like, oh, I got to look at how Alison drew these. It felt inspirational.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I do feel like I have a sense of their bodies with those round bellies and those funny hocks, those funny legs.
You got the squatness of them, which I think is hard for me because I end up drawing them like a tiny horse or something. And you got the kind of squatness of the pygmy goat.
Thank you.
I have a couple advice questions.
Oh.
But I want to look at my own notes before I get to them. I have a couple of general ones for me, and then I have one from Allie Liebergott. I guess I want to know one more thing about your process. The thing about your process is I want to know, do you have rituals? When you actually sit down to draw the book, when you're like, okay, now I have 250 pages scripted visually, like, I want to know your rituals. And I have another question that has nothing to do with that, which is how do you personally, and this might just be an intuitive sense. I think that it is, but I'm always trying to explain to students who are new what to draw and what to write.
Mm.
Do you have a philosophy around that?
I don't. What do you tell them?
Well, I'm always trying to emphasize show, don't tell. And also the question, why is this a comic? Like,
right.
Why is this a comic? Why, like, how are you using the form here? Like, how are you showing us something with the characters that you couldn't just write?
Like, I do tell them, don't draw something that you're saying in the text and don't say something in the text that you're putting in the drawing. But yeah. I don't know how to tell them what's better to be drawn and what's better to be written.
Well, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but I was actually really inspired by, I don't know if it was when we went to see Fun Home as a Queers in Comics, like, field trip, or if it was another time, but I remember hearing the playwrights being like, and I'm just going to speak about your family, abstract, but like Allison's family in the book never says what's really happening. And so in the musical, we're making it so that the only time they're talking about acknowledging what's really happening is through song. And so that's the place of the song in the musical. And the rest of it is just like the action of how they're portraying how things are happening. And so I think about that, like what part of the story is telling the emotional truth and what part of the story is saying what's on the surface. And so sometimes it's like, like I try to give students the example of like, okay, so it could be like a drawing of you smiling at a party. And then the narration is like, I was miserable, like that kind of, you get to make that choice. And then you don't have to stick with it the whole time, but it can be helpful in a scene to be like, what's going to be shown and what's going to be.
Yeah. I forgot about that thing about the songs or what people aren't saying. That's really good.
Yeah. That was really helpful. I think of that a lot when I'm trying to explain it to students.
Okay. I'm going to think of that too.
Okay. Well, Dan Clowes, I know at some point in Ivan Brunetti's book about cartooning, Dan Clowes says that it's that one part is the intellect and the other part is emotional. Like maybe the drawings are the emotional truth and the narrative is the intellectual truth, or you could swap them out. But I think it's just a personal preference.
I feel like for me, it's more complicated. Like there's some emotional truth in the writing and there's some intellectual truth in the drawing. But it's not like I can plan it. It's just an instinct as I go along, what comes out in the words and what comes out on the pictures.
Yeah. I find that when I'm working with students that are new to drawing, they'll do anything they can to give me as much writing as they can without doing any drawing.
Yep.
They're like, here's a Word document about what my comic could be. I'm like, I'm not going to read this. I don't want to read this. I don't know how to read. Please don't give me this. But I'm like, you only learn by drawing. You're only going to learn to get this instinct that you have from just drawing lots of comics.
Well, that brings me back to what you were saying is like, how do I start? Do I have rituals?
Thanks for coming back to that.
And wait, that reminds me of something else, but I will come back again.
Okay.
I recently went to hear Fran Lebowitz speak. She's amazing. It was really fun. But one person in the audience asked her, "Do you have rituals?" And she said, "No." And that was it.
That person is rituals. What?
So I'm sort of tempted to say, no, I don't have any rituals. But the thing about drawing is you just have to do it. You just have to do it. And it's really hard. It's hard and it's all consuming. And it only goes well when you give over to it, when you become completely immersed in it. And it's not going to be good for the first week or two of a project. It's not, or even longer. It takes a while you just have to keep doing it and doing it. And I both love and hate that. There's nothing better than being in that groove. And there's nothing worse than not being able to get into it. So I don't have rituals. It's just every time I pick up the pen or the stylus, it feels like the first time, Do
you listen to music or anything?
I can't listen to anything until I'm actually at the inking stage.
Me too.
Even when I'm sketching or penciling, there's too much work that I'm doing, going online, looking for drawing references, jumping up to shoot a picture of myself doing a pose. Like there's too much going on to focus on anything else, but inking is great. And then I can listen to podcasts, books, TV shows. It's the only time I get to really listen to stuff. So that's always fun.
I can't listen to anything even while I'm inking faces. It has to be when I'm just doing the fill-in work.
Really?
Even faces, as I'm inking them, I have to be like embodying the face.
Oh, wow.
Probably making the face. And then like all the tiny details. And then once I have all that feels like thinking work. And I can only listen to other things like podcasts or TV shows when I'm doing the fill-in non-thinking work of like texture and stuff. Yeah. It just takes a big part of my brain. What's the other thing that came to your mind when you thought about rituals?
I think I already said it. I think it was just having to do it. It's funny though, that making a face, I just found a little clip of Georges Remy drawing Tintin on a piece of glass. And he's totally making the expression that he's drawing. It's so cool.
I catch myself doing it.
Oh, I
all
do
the
it all
time.
the time. How else can you do it?
That's why I can't draw. It's hard to draw in public.
Oh.
Drawing on a plane or something and realizing that you're like making the like whatever the face is that you're drawing. I mean, this is too risque, but I thought of your habit of modeling for every picture when there was like the sex scene in the book. I was like, I was like,
Don't look at my iPhone library. No.
I was like, did Alison take a picture of herself doing every one of these things and then put it all together?
I have done that in the past. Yeah. Pretty crazy. Where I'm like both partners.
Yeah.
Psychotic. Deeply psychotic.
I hope that someday, like whatever your papers are donated, that this I photo library of you doing every pose from every comic is part of it. Like a contact sheet.
It's like it would never, no one could ever look at it because there's so many of them. It would be like that Borges story where someone like makes a map of the world as big as the world. Like it's just pointless.
That it could be a contact sheet and people could just like from the ceiling to the floor and people could just look at it and be like, oh my God. I mean, I have these too. I have a lot of pictures of myself with like my head in my hands. I just did this for a book where I couldn't figure out, it was hard.
That's really good.
Oh, thanks. I was like,
if you can't see this, there are these dear little pictures of a child like hugging their own knees in a crouch.
Yeah. I kept getting too critical of it and being like, oh, there's no room. Because in this, she's a dog in this picture, but I was like, there's no room for her snout. Like, where's her nose going? And it was really vexing me.
I think you got it.
Thanks. Well, now that I look at it later, when I'm not being so picky, I'm like, oh, that's a cute drawing. Like, I like it so much. I've saved the Post-it note version of it. But at the time I was like, no, do it again. And I did it like 14 times until I got it right.
Yeah, that's what you have to do.
Yeah. Okay. My general questions are, I'm going to start with Allie Liebegot's question. Friend to the show. She wants to know, oh, sorry, it's on my phone. This is a real question. She wants to know, what's a good job for a dyke artist later in life who still needs to earn money, especially if you're visibly gay? This can be an opinion advice question.
Wow. That just reminds me of the moment in my early 40s when I was working on Fun Home and Dykes was losing newspapers left and right and the internet was just like killing everything. And I really didn't know if I was going to be able to keep cartooning. And I started to think, what am I going to do? And I decided maybe I could become a librarian. Like, you can look like a big dyke and be a librarian. And it would be a cool job.
Yeah.
I guess you have to go to library school, which is the tricky part. But man, it's hard to think about not being able to do your own art and having to go to a job. I still have kind of nightmares about being back at that office job I had in my 20s.
You'll never have to do that again.
I hope not.
I think this person should do portraits and just sell them. But I like this librarian job.
Yeah, well, if you're good at portraits, that sounds really stressful to me, like people complaining to you that they don't look handsome enough.
I don't do humans anymore. I don't do human commissions anymore because I got burned by someone be like, my hair's a little cooler than that. Or can my mouth be open more? And I was like, just people being so picky. And so my favorite thing.
They can't see themselves objectively.
It's too stressful for me to draw humans that are going to see it. So
Yeah.
I think a portrait of someone's house is a nice way to make a living, or of someone's pet, or just memorial portraits, because they'll be grateful for whatever's there.
Yeah.
Is there
Okay,
getting
that's good
too-
advice too. Yeah.
But I like the idea of you as a librarian in a different life.
Yeah.
Or Allie is. I think maybe Allie could also work at a bookstore or a library.
Yeah. Bookstore's good too, if there are any left. Well, God, I guess there might not be any libraries left either.
Well, good luck to you, Allie. Allison, what? Okay. Reading this book and thinking about Dykes to watch out for, and thinking about your life in public as a political person, I want to know, and as a longtime activist on some level, do you have any tips or reflections for now, or advice for queers now?
Don't be scared. Please, everyone has to put themselves out there. And we all have to do it together. I just read that there's this actual statistic, a number, 3.5% of a population. If they get together and resist, that is enough to resist an authoritarian regime. So how many people is that? It doesn't seem like, it seems possible, 3.5%. So we got to do it. We got to really stick together and stop like infighting and having small differences with one another. And I don't know, just keep doing what we're doing.
I think that's a really good place to end.
It's a scary time, but it's also hopeful. Like if we can really achieve that tipping point, it's going to save everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Nicole.
I think that's really good. I think that's a beautiful place. Like, think about the symmetry of where we started and where we're ending this conversation.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you for the work that you do, all the connecting and all the cultural nooks and crannies that you go into.
Oh, thanks. I'm trying. I just loved this book. I thought it was so nice. And I'm not going to ask you what your next project is, because I know it, like, as you're like, here it is. I just did it. And everyone's like, well, then what? What's the next 7 years holds?
Actually, I did this really fast. Oh, I didn't even tell you one more little thing.
Tell me everything.
My partner colored it.
Oh, yeah.
Holly did all of that coloring work. She learned Photoshop to do this book. And it was intense. Like, it was very much I'm not used to collaborating, but it was like we were in it together the whole way, constantly discussing all these little details. And that was amazing. And the answer is, I want to do more of this. I want to keep writing about these characters and do like a sequel.
I would love that.
As we go into this next historic moment, I want to go with them.
I can't wait to see what happens. And I have to know what happens with all those little goats. I can't believe that guy knocked everyone up.
No. It was fun trying to figure out how that was even possible. So I put them on that slanted tin roof.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get the book to see what I'm talking about.
That's how he got to everyone?
Well, that's how he got to that one. I'm not sure.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, that little guy. Yeah, I have to see what happens with all the goats.
Well, I'm going to try and do a better job on the goats in the next book. I'm trying to channel you.
Hey, listeners, you can listen to my 2016 and 2018 Sagittarian Matters interviews with Alison on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And If you live in Portland, Seattle, or all over the place, she's hitting the road with her new book starting later this month in May. Go find her and get the book spent now. Sagittarian Matters is hosted and produced by me, Nicole J. Georges, with help from Ponyo Georges. Our executive producer is Chris Sutton, and our editor is Shauna Polly. Carolyn Pennypacker Riggs composed and performed our theme music. Please leave your 5-star reviews for us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and find us on Instagram at Sagittarian Matters. You can support our show on Patreon, patreon.com/Nicole J. Georges. Thank you for your support. See you next time.